Welcome back, my duelist friends. Casual Duelist here, and it's time for our third installment of the legends behind the cards. Now, clearly, you guys already saw the title card, so you know that we're doing some Paleozoic love here today. Just real quick, as an archetype, we've got 11 cards. The breakdown for that is 8 traps, 2 exes, and a single link. The link being the newest. And I want to say that was given to us with a Lightning Overdrive. Other TCG sets that include these would be the Dark Illusion, Invasion Vengeance, and the 2017 Mega Tins. This deck was originally, and I want to say it was exclusive to Korea first. Just double checking the set that came out of. Looks like Clash of Rebellions. Yeah, Clash of Rebellions. So, in order to understand them, let's talk about the archetype itself. So, in America, or the TCG, they are known as Paleozoic, and in the OCG, they were the Burgostoma, which is actually like this crazy callback to where they were actually found. Actually, both archetypal names are callbacks to this. They are all based on real animals that lived during the Cambrian period. And the Cambrian period is the first time period, like the first geological time period within the Paleozoic era. So right there, you get why they're called the Paleozoics. Let's get to the Burgostoma, right? So where were they found? A lot of these were found in Burgess Shale, which is in the Canadian Rockies, British Columbia, Canada, which is, again, just really cool. And kind of a hop, skip, and a jump if you have a passport from where I am, which is kind of fantastic. Now, as cards in the game, how exactly do we relate them to being fossils? Well, first and foremost, their names are letter for letter correct to the fossils of the creatures that they were, which doesn't usually happen. Usually there's like a little bit of wordplay, or it has something to do with the art. And actually, I think the art didn't do too bad of a job trying to synchronize the fossil record into our card game. And of course, when I go over each one, I'm going to start by throwing up the art of the character or trap character, and then I will throw up the fossil image for you guys. So that's all really cool. As far as their effects, these guys were a lot of like Floodgate-esque effects. They were a lot of really good effects from the past, just like Canadia. Was essentially Book of Moon. Dino miscus was a banished target face-up card, so I think that was like Karma Cut. And, you know, so on and so forth. There was like an MST. There was a send trap from controller deck to graveyard, so it was like Foolish Burial Goods. There was a draw 2 after discarding a Paleozoic card. A lot of effects that actually make them work well. And the one effect that they all really shared was when the trap is already in the discard pile, and this is what relates it to being a fossil. When it's already in the discard pile, or the graveyard as we call it in Yu-Gi-Oh, they actually summon back to the field, sort of like an unearthing, when another trap card is activated on the field. So again, this is sort of like a... Again, just, yeah, it's like a fossil dig, an excavation of sorts, and that's all fine and well. Now let's actually talk about some of these things and start getting you guys some images to look at. The first one, because I'm just going to go as alphabetical as possible here, and I'm going to go traps, exes, and then link. So the first trap is going to be Canadia. It was named after the country of Canada, which is really cool. It is actually a type of annelid worm, so that may or may not mean anything to you. I'm going to show you guys a couple of the pictures of the fossil here with it. I do think that this kind of is spot on. Obviously, they take some creative measures when they're doing the art for the card game because you want to make it look as cool as possible, and of course, give it like that anime feel. But it definitely looks like a worm. And to give you guys like a size reference for this, this thing would usually be about 3 centimeters, which is great if you know metric. But I've also got some, conversions for you if you don't. So that's about 1.2 inches or like 1.25 inch. So again, not terribly large, and none of these really were. Based on the time period, a lot of the animals were a lot smaller back then. It is just the way that it was. Our next character would be the Dino miscus. And this one's kind of cool because it sort of resembles like a stalk-like flower. It's more of like a filter feeder. And to kind of cross over to something else that you might know, if you played Pokemon during the Generation 3 games of Ruby and Sapphire, there was a fossil type called Lileep, I believe it was. And it evolves into something called Cradily. And visually, this is one of the better representations, more true to form on the way that it looks. And I'm going to show you guys a picture of like the reconstruction. I don't actually have a picture of the fossil itself for this one. But again, I think it looks really cool. The next one up would be Eldonia. And this would be more of a soft-bodied creature. And I got a couple different pictures for you guys. I got most of these off of Wikipedia. Just because I think that they had the best pictures. Maybe I'm wrong. And this is one of those things that with the Eldonia, because it's so soft-bodied, it is harder to classify. But I think it looks fairly jellyfish-like. And if I go ahead and I click onto the card, maybe some liberties were taken, but this looks like it does look a little bit like one of the pictures I put up there for you guys. And this one was not that big either. This thing was only about 20 millimeters, which would put it just under an inch. You'd have to be 25 millimeters or 2.5 centimeters to get to the inch. And for most of your vehicles out there, most like automobiles, this would be about the size of your lug nut, believe it or not. A lot of cars have like 19 or 21 or I think 22 millimeter lug nuts. So if you go outside, you look at your car and you look at the lug nut that's holding your wheel on there, it may be a little bigger or smaller depending on the vehicle. So not exactly like a huge creature there, but still very, very cool. Let's see, that puts us to Hallucigenia. Now, Hallucigenia is actually really cool. This is a possible ancestor to what they call velvet worms, and this was also known as the Lobopedian worm. These things look really cool. They look really spiky. They got a bunch of sets of legs, usually 7 to 8 pairs. Very tubular in its shape, very elongated. And again, if you look at the Hallucigenia card itself, you can kind of see how that would go ahead and look like that. It is characterized by having 2 teeth, that it also had 2 eyes, and also had 2 sets of teeth. The first would be the normal area, and then you would have what were called, I think they said it was pharyngeal teeth. Basically, they would be in the throat area, pharyngeal. And that's again, like if you're eating something and you're that type of critter, the first set basically feeds into the second set to make sure that whatever prey that it hunt down would not be able to escape it. These guys had a crazy size range, anywhere from 0.5 centimeter to 5.5 centimeters, which would be like just under 1/4 inch to 2.25 inches. And again, I like the way that this looks. I think they did a great job with bringing this one into the card game. The next one will be the Liang Coilia. Say that 10 times fast, right? So this is like a megachiron arthropod. These things would be about 5 centimeters or 2 inches. Again, nothing like terribly large. Like we tend to think of fossils, and we tend to think of like flying like pterodons. We think like T-Rex, raptors, everything else. We don't tend to think on the smaller scale that this time period would have. That said, this thing is like, I don't know, a murder shrimp. It's kind of got like the set of legs that go all the way down the body. You'll see that in the photo, and or the photos actually. I'm going to put both of those up there for you. And on the ends of its hands, it has like these whip-like antenna. Now, these could be for possibly for attacking prey, depending on how dexterous they would be. Or these would definitely be useful if they had to feel around to find their prey. But the very, very shrimp-like look to it. And again, when you go back and you look at the card, they kind of do add the whips to the card art. They give it a little more hooks and stuff. They kind of made it look a little more awesome. But again, still fairly true to form here. Next one up would be the Marella. Morella? Yeah. This would definitely be an arthropod. This is one of the more common that are found in the fossil record. And first glance to me, this looks like a mix between, I would have to say, like a horseshoe crab, a shrimp, and some other crustacean, honestly. Let's see, they were known as the lace crab, and again, when you're looking at that, you can kind of see that. Even in the card art, they did like a really good job of trying to give it like that almost skeletal lace-like structure. These things would be less than or at 2 centimeters, so just under an inch, or smaller. So again, very, very small, fits into the time period just fine. And again, I'll show you guys the fossil. It should already be up there. It's the fossil and also a reconstruction of that. So that's really cool. Next up would be Olenoids. Oh my goodness. You guys already know I can't talk, so it's all good. I think the art of this card makes it look like it's very angry and almost anglerfish-like when you look at it. This belonged to the trilobites. It did have long antennae, definitely had thin legs. I think they did that just fine. You could tell that these were more of a bottom feeder, and by that I mean these guys did not swim. These guys were basically just trawling the bottom of like the sea floors and just happening across anything else. These guys were probably messing up with like the Dino miscus, since they were basically filter feeders and they probably stayed in place more often than not. And so like that would be more or less kind of like what their prey would be. These things would get up to about 9 centimeters, which again is just under 4 inches. 4 inches would be about 10 centimeters, or it would be 10 centimeters. But I think, again, this one was a little more of an artistic, they went and made it look a little cooler. Again, it sort of reminds me of like pill bugs, or I'm not going to think about them, isopods maybe. Just on a quick look. Next up would be Picayo. And Picayo is always like a really cool looking card. And again, it just sort of looks like it's like a worm, sort of eel-like. But again, more anime, a little more fierce probably than what they were. But they were very eel-like. These guys would definitely swim that way. They were part of the primitive chordates type of phylum back then. Very cool to look at. These guys, again, not super big. These were like 30, 38 millimeters, just about an inch and a half. So again, like, we would probably miss this today. We would be like, we'd look into the primordial ocean and we'd be like, it looks like a minnow or whatever, baby eel. One of its more modern day representations would maybe be like the hagfish, which is also, I believe, very eel-like too. Just looking at my notes, I didn't actually look up the hagfish. The next one would actually bring us to our Xyz monsters. And our first Xyz monster in this archetype is Anomalocaris. I'm never going to get that one right. This was also known as the abnormal shrimp. And when you guys see some of the photos I'm going to put up there, you guys will pretty much agree. And again, if we wanted to go back to Pokemon, this would be, again, Generation 3. You had Anorith and Armaldo being the other fossil monster line in that game. And this actually looks an awful lot like that. And again, I think they gave it a really good like anime feel for the card game. As far as like its real world stats, this thing was definitely related to arthropods, which is, you know, kind of like if you're into this, you kind of just guess that from the look. And it is definitely one of the earliest apex predators. This thing would have wrecked wholesale. This is also like gigantic to that time period. We're talking like 38 centimeters or like 1.25 feet. So like you're not gonna miss this guy, and he's not gonna miss a whole lot of anything. Other things to know about him: he did have like a fanned out tail. He did have. Wait, I'm reading the wrong note. Scratch that. No fantail. Those measurements were excluding his tail. That's my writing is terrible sometimes, guys. I apologize. This thing was definitely built for very efficient swimming. This thing would definitely have been able to chase down its prey. And again, I think they gave it a great look and represented that well. And another little bit of like sort of trivia, because it had different like body textures, things that were very mineralized versus soft tissues. For a long while, this thing was very hard to categorize for everybody, and would actually be found as separate pieces in different fossils for a long while. Which brings us to our other Xyz, Baobinya. Very cool looking guy here. Taxonomically weird. It is part of the stem group of arthropods. And again, this is based on the body shape mostly. This thing would be up to 7 centimeters in length, which would put it just under 3 inches. And again, if you look back and forth between the art and the fossil, and then of course the restoration picture here, you're going to see like they did a pretty darn good job of representing this guy. The mouth is underneath the head. This thing gets 5 eyes, which is crazy cool. Definitely looks more elongated like a shrimp. This one has that fanned out tail, which reminds me of not just like regular shrimp today, but like even lobsters sort of have that type of tail. It has a clawed proboscis, which would actually help it in feeding. And yeah, kind of crazy cool looking, kind of scary. Again, since it's so small, probably not a big deal, but I would not want to run into it. It would definitely freak me out. And then there's our newest character. This is our Link monster. This is Camberraster. And honestly, this thing looks like a dead ringer for a blue crab. It's probably, or sorry, not a blue crab, a horseshoe crab, and is probably absolutely 100% related. These things were large. These guys were about a foot too. They were 30 centimeters. And these ones they could swim, but they probably fed by feeding and filtering through the sand and finding small, either already destroyed or like already killed food, like a scavenger. Or again, if they found some of the smaller ones while they were sifting and they found things like the Dino miscus, which would be, you know, supremely small, just like a little 3 centimeter, or sorry, that's the 20 millimeter, so that'd be 2 centimeters. They would just like scoop these guys up. Another cool thing about these is if you know their actual full name, the species Camberraster falcatus. It was actually partially named for the Millennium Falcon, a little Star Wars tie-in. Somebody gave it a little bit of a joke, and again, it comes from the way that the dorsal carapace looks. So again, that's all of them. It's 11 cards. Sorry it took a little bit longer this month to get into the legends behind the cards. I just wanted to make sure I got a little more research than I did the first 2 times. The first one felt a bit rushed. The second one, not as much, but I could have gone a little bit more into the urban legends, I think. And this third one is essentially just a natural science lesson. I mean, a lot of these were found, again, all of these were found up in Canada. Some of them were found in other regions around the world, especially like the taller mountain ranges, because again, as the tectonic plates would shift, that's what gets your mountains to go up, which takes your older fossils as high as possible. So this one was more of like a history lesson, a little science lesson, and I enjoyed it. I hope that you guys did. If you guys enjoy stuff like this, and you enjoy deck lists, any of that stuff, and if you haven't already, do consider subscribing to the channel. Let your friends know about it. This is something I like to do about once a month now. It's just fun. Honestly, this is more for me. But if somebody enjoys it, then it's all the better. I do have one more favor to ask of all of you, and that is simply to just have a great day. I will be back tomorrow. We have a viewer-submitted deck list. I will be doing that one digitally, I think. I do have to double-check my stock. I may actually have all of the cards, and if I do, I'll do it physically. And then I'm actually going to be redoing that same deck with my version of the build later this week as well, so that's something to look out for. Outside of that, yeah, you guys just have a great day. Thanks for listening. And I hope that you enjoyed it. See you later.